Now, for this, I need the ability to recreate this merge all the time. And since we're all grown-ups over here, when I gotta start copy pasting this directory all the time, right? Because we're Git experts, we're wielding a lot of power. We're actually gonna take a tiny detour, and we're gonna learn about a very, very powerful but yet very, very dangerous command called git reset. So in the previous video, we learned about many, many commands that move the pointers forward. But now we're gonna start learning about the commands that have the ability to actually move the pointer backwards. In fact, we actually have seen one of them, which is the git checkout, right? Git checkout has the ability to go to any random commit and thus move the pointer backwards. Okay, but in fact, it was probably so obvious to me that I even forgot to mention it. Okay, but today we're going to learn about a different one. When you do a checkout, for example, I don't know, to some random commit over here, it will actually move the head pointer over there. Okay, and what we're going to do right now is we're going to learn about git reset, and git reset actually moves the pointer that you're currently on there. For example, if you do like git reset and we're gonna go like over here, for example, right? Then it's gonna move the main over here, and the head will still point to main, but nothing will point to this guy, right? And so essentially, it will forget how to draw this thing because all the pointers go backwards. Now, git reset has three different modes, and the one that I just explained to you is the most complicated, well, not complicated, most powerful and the most dangerous one, right? So this is the git reset with the hard flag. So there is an alias, which is kind of ironic, because you shouldn't, you shouldn't create like usually you shouldn't create aliases. You shouldn't create, you shouldn't make things that are so powerful so easy just by typing like four characters. Okay, git reset hard, but because in practice they're so useful. It is, this alias is actually really good. Okay, the most important thing to learn about git reset, before we even run it, is that if you have any changes laying around, like whatever you have in there. Okay, let's switch to the irregular thing. Okay, whatever you do, you have some stuff. Okay, save the file, whatever. If you run this git reset hard command, sure, I already explained to you that it will move the pointer. It will move your branch pointer to whatever you tell it to do. But it will also remove everything that you just had laying around. So this is a command that will make you lose your changes. Okay, so be very careful with it. Okay. So for example, we just ran it, and if we do, we just added some changes, and if I just do grhh without specifying any pointer, it will just do git reset hard to wherever we are. Okay, so essentially it will say, okay, just remove everything from the copy. Okay, so if I run it, as you can see, everything was removed, but the commit graph looks exactly the same. Okay. So I'm gonna add a bunch of other stuff real quick, and this time we're gonna do grhh, and we're gonna say please go back to over here, right? So pretend like this didn't happen. By the way, very careful. If you go accidentally and say like go over here, then it will also forget how to get to this one. In fact, let's actually do this real quick because it's actually not so hard to restore. Okay, so if I just do 8F46, okay, then all of this will go away, and it will move the main pointer to here. Okay, therefore the head will still point there to this one, and then there will be no pointers that point to this, and there will be no pointers that point to that. Okay, so if we just do this, if we do git log a, this is how it's going to look like, right? So we see just the commit, and we see just the commit summary, our topic, this one. Okay, but the git garbage collection didn't run yet, so this graph, it's still there, right? So the ref log will show it to you. I mean, right now we don't even need the ref log because I just see this one. So if I just say, okay, let's just move the main pointer, we're still on main, let's just move the main pointer back to this one, right? Because it's still there, right? So C5A6. Okay, let's also do a couple of changes because I always want to demonstrate that it will also destroy these changes. Okay, so if we just do this, then all of a sudden, it's like we haven't done anything. Okay, so if I wanted to recreate the situation, the way it was before, before we created this merge conflict, I would just do grhh, and I will use this one 39cb, right? So we're going to use this one all the time. Okay, so I'm going to do this git log a, and it's exactly like as if this merge never happened, the merge conflict resolution never happened, and so on. Cool. So now let's attempt the merge again, and it's going to create exactly the same conflict, which is exactly why we're doing this. We're going to do this all the time, over and over and over. We're going to recreate this conflict. So the next command that I'm going to show you is going to be the command that you actually already know, but you didn't know that you can use it during the merge, which is the checkout command. Okay. So you use it in a situation where, so let's say you have a merge and you have a bunch of conflicts to resolve like, I don't know, 10 files, and each file has a couple of conflicts, and then you resolved already a couple of them, and then you're resolving the next ones, and then you remembered, oh, actually, the one that I just did before, I actually did it wrong. So there's a way to basically say revert my resolution. And you use the checkout command to do this. For example, let's go and let's go and pick one. So let's say accept incoming change. Okay, save the file. Okay, and it doesn't matter whether we stage it or not, right? So we didn't stage it yet. Okay, so we can do git checkout, and we're gonna say conflict. It's very important. We need to specify conflict merge, right? And we're gonna say this file. Okay, then it's gonna say, hey, I'm just gonna recreate it back, right? So it's like it never happened, right? And even if we stage it. Okay, so in order to stage it, I'm just gonna do, whoops. By the way, I don't want the empty line like this. So, right, so now it's like this. Whoops, GAA, it's like this. So now it's staged. Okay, we can still run the same command, which will just do this. Okay, so GST, now it says, hey, no, you didn't resolve it yet. By the way, maybe I should remove this setting real quick. It's something like new line. Insert final line. Yes, exactly. That's the one I want. Let's do, because I'm sure that I'm gonna ruin this accidentally. Okay, like this. All right, cool. So let's say accept incoming change. Okay, like this. Yes, perfect. In this particular case, we constructed this conflict. It's a very, very contrived example, but in practice, very, very often. In fact, let me actually do this real quick. Like this. Very often, it would be very, very useful to see how this version, how the code look like before either of the branches diverge. This is called the base of the merge, right? So you basically go backwards from here and from here, and you find the place where they were the same, right? Where they diverge, right? Now, the way it's done by default for some reason is that Git doesn't display it. And there is a way to display it. So you do the same thing, right? So first of all, you need to resolve it somehow, right? So let's do this, okay? And now instead of merge, you're gonna say diff3, right? So this is a three-way diff, okay? So you do this, and now Git is going to display this tiny thing over here, like this. And if you do git status or git diff, we're actually gonna see it over here as well, like this. All right. Great. So this one is actually super useful, and in fact, we're actually going to abort the merge real quick. GMA, right? So the merge is not there. glog a, gst, it's all clean. There's a way to configure it globally so that it always runs this. So it's gconfig global merge conflict, and you have auto completion. Okay, and by the way, I prefer that you do this. Okay, I believe it shouldn't make a difference. Okay, and you say that the default conflict style is going to be diff3. Okay, so now if I do git merge topic and we're going to do gst, we're going to see that git diff, then we're going to see that these things are there. Okay, it shows us the base, which is d334. So glog a this is the base, right? So it says over there, this is how it looked like, okay, before like all of these things happened. Okay, now a very important thing to understand is that even right, so now it's diff3 and we accept the incoming change. Okay, so if you want to do the git checkout thing, right, where was it? Like this, you still need to specify the conflict style, right? So even though you want like the same one, you cannot just do this, okay? So it says, blah, 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 right? So you always need to say, conflict equals, and even if it's the same one, you still need to specify it. And just as a reminder, you always have auto completion, okay? So as you can see, there's only, I press tab, so you see there's only merge and there's only diff3, okay? Diff3, like this, okay? Recreated one conflict. All right, so now let's leave it in this unresolved state for a bit, and I want to show you a couple of useful flags that you can pass into the log command that will help you to pinpoint exactly which commits the the conflict was caused from. Because right now, we're merging like sort of like two branches, but there are only two commits in there that we're merging. Okay, so obviously the conflict was there, but you can have like 10 commits on one branch and like 20 commits on the other branch, and then you're bringing them together, and you want the ability to pinpoint exactly which commits cause the conflict. And this is how you do it. glog, let's do one line, and it's called left right, and we're gonna do merge like this. Okay, it's basically gonna display it like this. Okay, it says, okay, like on the left, like this is this is how it looked like, and this is how it looked like on the right. And I believe if we don't specify merge, it's just gonna display, okay, now it looks, yeah, so the arrow is now wrong. Okay, merge. merge. Okay, and you can also let me actually go into full screen, so you can also specify the -p or -page flag. I'm actually going to do -p, and it also is going to it is also going to show you the change. By the way, completely random, a couple of other commands that you can pass into git status, right? So alias gst, that was git status. Okay, so you can do gst short. Okay, you can do gst short and branch, and you can also do GST SB, which is, you know, the same thing as short branch. This is like the very, very common one, right? So it's running GST, you're gonna run GST short and branch. Okay, so it just shows you the short version of the show of the change, and it shows you the branch. All right, now the next trick that we're gonna see is actually a bit spooky, but it's super useful. There is a way for Git to track your conflict resolutions and to record them for you, right? So it's basically going to cache them all. And then the next time, if you run into exactly the same conflict, it will actually look into the cache and it will figure out that, hey, I can resolve it for you, and it's going to do it for you. So the command is called reuse record the resolutions, or rerere, and let's play with it. So we're going to abort the merge. Okay, like this. Let me actually show you the files. Okay, abort the merge. We're in a very clean state. Nothing, you know, nothing happened, right? So we're not gonna create the merge commit so that I don't have to run through the reset. Okay, so the way you enable it, you do config. We're gonna enable it globally, enabled, and we're gonna say true. Okay, get, come on, get config. There we go, and we're going to see that rerere is enabled. Let's go and run through the merge, right? So gm topic, right, as always. Okay, and now as you can see, it says recorded pre-image for readme. Okay, so if we do grerere status, okay, you're going to see that there is a readme, and if we do grerere diff, we're going to see this thing like this. Okay, it looks very similar, just as Fira code started to display some stuff over there. In any case, so there is a folder now in your .git directory inside of your repository called rrcache. And by the way, you can always manually create this directory in there, and you will enable it rerere locally. So you don't always need to enable it globally. And by the way, there is always a way to enable things locally, basically by omitting the global flag that I'm going to show you. But for rerere, there is also another way to do it, just by creating this directory. Okay, so if we do tab, we're going to see that, you know, this is the merge commit. And we're going to do tab again. We're going to see that there's only one file called pre-image. So if we just show it, and it's going to look exactly like this. In fact, without the diff3 for some reason, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so essentially it started recording this this merge. By the way, let me actually show you how to do this locally. Okay, so locally you also have the config file. Okay, so right now it looks like this. Okay, so if you just do gconfig rerere enabled true, then it's just going to write the stuff into this local directory, right? And there's like a hierarchy that it looks, your global config, and then your local config will override this. Okay, so we actually don't need to do this, so we're just going to do unset rerere enabled. Okay, so now if we display it, it's gone, but in the global one it's still there. Okay, so it's still enabled, it's still all good. Okay, all right, so we're in the middle of the merge as always. Okay, so let's go and let's say accept incoming change. Okay, so we're going to accept this one. I'm going to save the file, and for some reason it always adds the new line. All right, so now if we do the same thing as we always did, we do GAA, and then we do git commit message, and we're going to say merge commit. Okay, so now we're going to see recorded resolution for readme MD. Okay, which means that, first of all, if we do rerere status and rerere diff, we're going to see that nothing is there because, the merge finished, everything finished. Okay, but if we go and, we'll look into this directory, rerere cache, and we're going to do tab. I'm going to do tab again, and as you can see, there are two files now. Well, the pre-image we have already seen, but there's also the post image. Okay, so as you can see, remember that you chose this version. Let me refresh vscode. Okay, so now let's say that for some reason, I don't know, for some legitimate reason, we ran into exactly the same conflict again. In order to reconstruct the situation, I'm going to do the same thing as we did before. grhh3, grhh 39CB, right, which is this one. Okay, so now git log a looks like this. Okay, so this is the same merge as we have been doing all along, but this time rerere will resolve it automatically for us. Okay, so we're going to do gm topic, and it's going to say first of all, there is a merge conflict, but then it says resolve readme using previous resolution. Right? It still says that automatic merge failed. It says, fix conflicts and then commit the result. But actually, the conflict is already saved, right? It's already resolved, right? So if you do GST, it's still not staged, and you don't want it to be staged, right? Because even though it's automatically resolved, you still always wanna see it. Okay, so there is still a conflict. You want to go manually there and add the files manually, right? So far we have always been just doing GAA, right? Just add everything. But in real life, you sometimes want to manually add things into the staging area, as we will see in the upcoming videos. There's also a way to configure Git to automatically stage these ones. I'm going to show it to you, but we're not going to use it. Okay, so we're going to do global rerere auto update, and you set it to true. Okay, so then it's going to do the same thing, but it's also going to stage it. Okay, but I don't recommend you using it, so we're not going to use it over here as well. Now we're in this weird state that we have a conflict, and the rerere did its work, and there is a way to to look at it and say, okay, I know that rerere did this thing, but I actually didn't want it to do this. Like for some reason, like this time, I want to resolve the conflict differently, and you can ask rerere to always to forget this specific resolution. I mean, you can do it manually. You can just go there and remove the post image file, but there's also a built-in command that you can use. So grere, you can say forget, rerere, forget, and you just give it the file like this. Readme, come on, readme. Why doesn't it autocomplete it? Readme.md, like this. Okay, so now it says updated pre-image and forgot the resolution. Okay, so if you go and look into git rr cache tab, so we're going to see pre-image, which is this, and now there is also this image. So from here you would go ahead and you would create your you would stage everything and you would create your merge commit, but we're not going to do this. So let me actually abort the merge, and let me also remove the cache, the entire thing, right? So that we're just going to forget it, and we're also going to disable it. Global, we're just going to do unset rerere enable, so we can do git config. And by the way, I'm always looking into this file to show you that what we did, but there's obviously also a built-in command, which is list, like this. Okay, so it shows you all of the things that we did, but there's no highlighting or anything. There's also a way to show just one of them, like this. There's also a way to specify, show origin, to show it to you from which file it came, which is this file. So username, user email, and whatever. For example, like init default branch, right? So you can just go and look at them. Oh, there's actually auto completion. As you can see, it didn't care that the b was lowercase, so it's not case sensitive. Okay, so Git has like thousands of commands, and there are a bunch of cheat sheets out there, and I'm not even going to create one because there are like so many of them. You can find one in 5 seconds. Let me refresh vscode real quick. Okay, so now let's actually start talking about tools. So far we have been using vscode as an IDE, and this is very common. If you have an IDE, it will know how to do merge conflicts resolution. It will know how to display the merges to you. It will know how to display the diffs to you, and so on. But if you're using a sort of like more like an old school editor that does not have all of this functionality built in, you're going to use external tools for merges and for diffs, and sometimes even for to craft your commits. Okay, so the classic tools, they're external tools, and the way this works is always the same. So first you always do the merge, right? And then you run the git merge tool command or the git diff tool command, and then it will communicate with an external merge and diff tool and display things to you. So as of right now, we just manually went through all of our files. We saw that there were conflict there. We started clicking around. Okay, the way this works with the merge tool is that Git tells it all of the files that it needs to it gives it all the information that it needs to display it, and then the tool starts and it has it shows you the first well, actually it always shows you the files, right? So if you have a file with 10 conflicts, it's going to show you this file with all of these conflicts. Then you run through this tool, you save the file. Usually Git trusts the exit code of this tool, and so if you save the file and if you close the file, then it will stage it automatically for you, and then Git will tell this diff tool or this merge tool to show the next file which contains the conflicts. And then you run like this, and once you resolve all of them, you create manually your merge commit. There are some older battle tested tools out there that don't require any configuration, and we're going to take a look at them a bit later. But for now, we're going to start with VS Code, and VS Code indeed requires a little bit of configuration. Okay, first of all, let's close it. We don't need it anymore. Okay, so if we do gconfig global, and we're going to do merge tool, and by the way, pay attention whenever I type merge tool, because sometimes I'm going to do this merge.tool. There is a difference. Okay, so this is the configuration for merge tool, and the tool is going to be called VS Code, and the configuration is going to be which command to use to run it. And so we're going to do code, and we're going to wait for its return code, and we're going to pass it in the merged variable. Okay, like this. So now if we look at git config, we're going to see that this is what it created, right? So it basically says, okay, so if the merge tool that you're using is going to be VS Code, then please use this command. Okay, now we're also going to, like, usually you would also configure the default tool to run as your merge tool, but because I'm going to demonstrate a bunch of them to you, what I'm going to do, well, actually, let's do it just so that I can show it to you, right? So in this case, we're going to do merge dot tool. Okay, I'm going to say VS Code. Okay, so now if we look in there, we're going to see, okay, so our merge tool is going to be VS Code, and this is going to be its configuration. So we're in this clean thing. Okay, cool. So we can do git merge topic, okay, like this, and now I can show you alias gmt, which is git merge tool, and also no prompt. I'm just going to run gmt. Okay, and now it's going to say merge and readme.md, normal merge conflict, blah, blah, blah. And it launched VS Code for us, but notice that we're not in some directory. Okay, so if I open this thing, it's it's a completely new instance of VS Code. It's just going to go like through all of the conflicts. You resolve them exactly the same way, right? So for example, you say accept incoming change, and then you save the file, and then you close VS Code, and then this thing will continue, right? So it notice that the instance closed. If there were more files with conflicts, it will launch another VS Code instance, right? So one would close, the next will open, and so on. Okay, so let's do GST, right? So as you can see, it also created this origin file. Let's go through everything again a bit slower. So let me abort the merge, and let me do let me remove this readme.md.org like this. Okay, so we're over here again, git log a like this. Everything is clean. Let's do the merge again, and now let's do gmt, which is like this. All right, there we go. Okay, so I wanted to point out this 5 over there. So as you can see, if we click on source control, we're going to see that it created a bunch of files, right? So if I also just run the terminal over here, so I'm going to do cd dev merge playground, right? So I need another terminal because this one is like in this stateful state. Okay, so if I just do ll, you're going to see that it's these files over here, right? So it created like all of these files, and these are the files that are in this dollar merged variable, right? So this this variable, right, inside of it is the path to all of these 4 files, and like all of these 4 files were passed into VS Code. We can actually look into them, right? So if we look into, I don't know, readme base, right? You can imagine what's in there, right? So it shows you like how it was before, right? Let's look into another one. For example, so local is the main, remote is our topic branch, right? So this is our topic branch, and there is also a local, right? And so once you finish, it's going to remove them, right? But it will also create this .org file for you. Also, let me show you what happens if you actually like resolve this, for example, right? But you don't save the file, right? So I didn't save the file. I'm going to close it, and now it's going to say, was the merge successful? Okay, and if I say no, I can do GMT again, and it's going to launch it, right? But again, I'm not going to save it. I'm just going to close it. It's going to say, was the merge successful? I'm going to say yes, right? But if we look inside, right, so if we look into bat readme md, right, it still left all of this stuff in there. Okay, so it didn't actually resolve anything. Okay, let's actually abort the merge and also remove this readme readme.md.org. All right. Great. So we're again in this very clean state. All right. So let's actually recreate it again like this, and we're gonna do GMT. Okay. So I'm actually gonna pick one. Oh, actually, VS Code is still a little bit confused. Don't save. Okay. And no, it wasn't GMT. All right. There we go. Let's pick the incoming change like this. Okay. Let's save the file. Let me actually close this. Okay, now as before, as you can see, it actually created this .org file. Okay, so if we look in there, we're going to see that it's basically just just a typical the typical thing how it looked like. Okay, so this is a typical thing. It's a typical configuration. When you use external merge tools, you will always have these original files stored, just as a backup, so that you can look at them. Okay, it's usually a good idea to add them to your gitignore files, and we haven't talked about gitignore files, so this is a good opportunity. So you can have local gitignore files, right? So you can just create a local .gitignore file. Let's actually do this. Let's actually do .org. Okay, like this, and we're going to create a gitignore file. Okay, so now there is we need to do L so that it shows us the hidden files like this. In fact, let's actually open VS Code, because I don't want to, maybe some of you are not so used to CLIs like this. Okay, so basically I just created a file called .gitignore, and inside of it you have glob patterns, and glob patterns are essentially a simplified version of regular expressions. And I basically said any files that end like this with .org, they should just be ignored. Okay, so this is what I did over here. Like before, I was always doing just like gitignore like this. Okay, so now if we do GST, we're gonna say, okay, we changed the gitignore, right? We added the gitignore, but if you do LL, you're going to see that the file is there, but it's like you're sort of making files invisible to Git. Okay, let's actually move this .gitignore file. Let's actually move it to its global location, right? So there is a way to have a global gitignore file. There is a way to configure where it should be. The default location actually doesn't exist yet, so we actually need to do make directory. So the default location is in your home folder in .config and in a directory called git, and inside of it, right? So we're going to move the gitignore. Okay, move the gitignore into your home folder .config/git, and we're going to rename the .gitignore to simply ignore. Okay, so now as you can see, it's deleted. Okay, but if we do GST, we're going to see that we're not seeing this org, which is also why it's grayed out over here. Now Git is not tracking it, but the file is actually still there, right? So and if you imagine, like, if you have like a big conflict, you have like hundreds of files, whatever, then all of these like .org files, they will always stay there. Now Git is not going to see them, right? But they're still there, and obviously you can write a teeny tiny bash incantation or zsh incantation that would go through your directory, look for files that end with .org and remove them. But it turns out that you actually don't need to, because Git has a built-in command to do this. Okay, it has a command called git clean, and you should always run it with two flags: -d, which means recursively descend into subdirectories, and -i for interactive, right? So you never want to clean. Clean will actually delete files, so you never want to delete files without an interaction. Okay, in fact, the alias that comes in with zsh specifies exactly these two flags. So if you run them, it will actually not do anything, because it treats the files that are gitignore slightly differently, and there is a flag that you can pass in to git clean that will also look into the gitignore file. In fact, I said it wrong. It's not going to also look into gitignore file. As soon as you specify this flag, which is -x, okay, so you either do this or you do a git clean -idx or -i -d -x, and by the way, it has to be a capital X. Okay, so if you do gclean x, it will look only in your gitignore file. Okay, so if you do this, and then it's going to say, hey, remember, it's interactive. It says, I would remove the following item, readme.md.org. And now you can run these commands. You can either press, the blue letters, or you can press these letters. For example, clean would actually remove it, or you can select by number. Let's actually do ask each. For example, now I can do either A or 4. So I'm going to do A, press enter. It's going to say remove. I'm going to say yes, and now it's going to be gone. Okay, ta-da. It's gone. Now there's also an even better way to handle this situation, and there's a config for exactly this thing. Merge tool, keep tab, keep backup false, right? So now it's not even going to create these files. Okay, so let's actually abort the entire merge. Let's close VS Code. We don't need it. Okay, so again, we're in this clean state. Nothing happened yet. We're going to do gm topic to create the merge. Okay, we're going to do gmt. Okay, we're going to say that we're going to accept the incoming change or some other change, doesn't really matter. Okay, save the file, close VS Code. Everything is okay. GST, LL, the file is not there. Okay, so if we were to commit this, everything would be filed. By the way, I'm not sure if I I mentioned this before. I think I did, right? So if you actually use an external merge tool like VS Code, then once you save the file, it stages it automatically.